Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if it's your first time here. It's the middle of June and it is time to revamp the veggie garden here at Cottage Gardens of Petaluma. Revamping is always so much fun. Change of season is so much fun. Pulling out all the spring stuff and getting in the summer stuff is so much fun. So you're going to love this video. But let me start by saying, if you think middle of June is too late to plant up your summer garden, you are wrong. Here in Zone 9B, it's totally a perfect time to do it. We have months and months of summer ahead of us, and our first frost date isn't due till, our average frost date sometime towards the middle of November. Lately, it hasn't even been happening till January. So we have a long growing season, and now is a fantastic time to get in your tomatoes, your peppers, your corn, your summer squash, cucumbers, and I'm going to plant all of them. So follow along with me and I'll tell you how to do it. I have so much to plant and only so much ground space to plant it in, and I really want to do a big stand of corn this year. A few of them actually, because I want to try that ultraviolet, which looks so amazing, and I always love to grow silver queen. So I'm leaving all of that space over there for those, and I'll plant those in a little while. So I'm going to do my peppers in containers this year. And of course, I've got to plant my favorite pepper first. This is Jimmy Nardello, which is a sweet Italian pepper. And it's a great choice if you've just got containers. If you've got a balcony or a deck, or you're out of ground space like I am. Jimmy Nardello is highly productive, of the most delicious little heirloom sweet peppers that you could ever grow. They ripen up red, but of course you can harvest them green as well. And they're just fantastic. Also I love the name of them. And I love growing heirlooms. So my summer garden is never complete without a Jimmy Nardello. Now I've started with really good rich soil in every one of the containers that I'm going to plant up today. And it's nice and rich already, but when I plant any vegetable or any new flower in anything, especially if it's a heavy feeder like any of the peppers or tomatoes, I always like to add a little bit of fertilizer too. And Sure Start is great. I'm not sponsored by these guys or anything, but a little bit of Sure Start goes a long way towards getting your vegetable off to a fantastic sure start. So here's Jimmy. Already it's got 3-4 peppers on it. It's going to be so happy to get out of its 1-gallon pot into a much bigger pot. Now lately around here in Zone 9B, peppers have been overwintering, especially if you have them in a container. So that's another great reason to grow a pepper, any of your peppers or even your eggplants, in a container. Climate change is actually working in our favor a little bit. May as well make the most of it. And the peppers in a container, you can bring them in to a sheltered spot, a greenhouse, what have you, to winter over and then plant them right back outside again. Okay, I loosened the roots a little bit, pressed my pepper in, firmed the soil around those roots. Make sure there's really good root contact with this wonderful soil that it's in. And there we go. You know what else I always do is make sure that I put the label in there so that I don't forget which one I planted and where. Because there's a couple more peppers that I always need to plant. But I always start with Jimmy. Water my pepper in. Now I've already ensured there's excellent drainage on this container, because no vegetable, in fact hardly any plants unless they're bog plants, want to sit in a puddle. They want good drainage. This pot has great drainage, and now Jimmy Nardello has been watered. Next we move on to tomatoes, and I'm going to plant 5 or 6 different tomatoes out here in the vegetable garden at Cottage Gardens, and I really encourage you to come on in and visit in a couple of weeks. Let all the veggies settle in and then come on in and see. But so one thing I want to do is, like I did last year, plant cherry tomatoes up and over this arbor, because it's nothing quite like walking through an arbor loaded with cherry tomatoes. And I'm growing slightly different ones in a different spot than last year. I did move this arbor, the soil has been switched out, and they're different tomatoes too. This one is the emerald green cherry tomato. Now it is super tasty, super sweet, ripens up to a really emerald green color, which is great to confuse birds and mice and whatnot. They don't know it's ripe, so they don't eat them ahead of you. You get to harvest all your little emerald green tomatoes. So how do you grow a tomato? Here we have a 1-gallon tomato, nice and big already. One thing you really want to do when you have a tall tomato is plant it deep. So I'm going to dig a nice deep hole. Again, this has already been refreshed. It's good fresh soil. I'm still going to put some Sure Start in there. If you make your own compost, that is absolutely fantastic. Now is the time to get it into your vegetable garden, to get your veggies off to a fantastic start. If you don't make your own compost, there's fabulous, fabulous products out there in the world. I love the soil booster and I love the organic compost mix that we have here too. And I use soil booster in this hole, and now a little bit of Sure Start. Now I can't find my clippers anywhere, because when you're planting your tomato plant deep, you want to clip off the lower foliage and the lower tomatoes. So here we go. Though it breaks my heart, I am going to clip off this and these lower tomatoes, and this and this. And I'm going to plant my tomato all the way to here. And you clip things off so that they don't kind of rot underground and encourage disease problems. And when you plant your tomato deep, little rootlets form the whole way up. And that is absolutely fantastic. Even more support and even more nutrients can get into this plant through all those extra new little roots. So it's going to get planted right to there. So carefully unpot this beautiful emerald green cherry. Very carefully loosen the roots, because the tomato's not crazy about you messing with the roots too much. But you do want to loosen them so they penetrate all the soil that is all enriched and full of nutrients, and so that they can get those nutrients. I'm messing with the roots a little more than, here we go, this is good. And very, very carefully tip that in, plant it nice and deep. Now quite often they'll call indeterminate tomatoes vining tomatoes. Now they don't vine in any typical way that a climbing green bean or a sweet pea or anything with tendrils vine, but they do get really tall and they do want some support, so they're the perfect kind of tomato to grow up and over an arbor. And I get such a kick out of harvesting cherry tomatoes grown right at head height. It's just so much fun. Okay, tamping it in, making great root contact. All I need to do now is water it in. But tomatoes are really heavy feeders. They really like a little bit of fish emulsion at the same time that I'm watering. So I'm going to go get that, add some fish emulsion to my water, and water in my new tomato. All right, when you're adding fish emulsion or feeding any plant with fish emulsion, you want to make sure first off that your plant is already watered, is already well hydrated, because you don't want to accidentally burn your plant with too much good stuff straight off. So we're going to water that, let it sink in, and about 10 or 15 minutes, when all of that is soaked down to the root level, I'm going to come back, add that fish emulsion. Time has passed, the water is soaked in. I'm going to do a little bit of fish emulsion. That's roughly 2 tablespoons into 5 gallons. Swish it around with my handy stick. and then water that in. Oh, this tomato's going to be so happy. 6 weeks after planting, come along with some really good, well-balanced organic fertilizer and side dress your tomato. It's going to appreciate it. In about 6 weeks, it will have pushed out a ton of new growth, a ton of new blossoms, hopefully some tomatoes, and it definitely will appreciate the feeding. Next up, cucumbers. No summer garden is complete without some cucumbers. And I am growing a bunch of different varieties, always my favorites. I love Suyo Long and I love Market More, so we're planting those. Diva is another good one too. And they're all climbers, so I'm planting them up against the fence here. These guys are natural climbers, unlike the tomato. They have little tendrils and they love to climb, and that makes the cucumbers extra good too. Keeps them up off the ground and nice and straight. So again, nice fresh soil. Now I admit these are very large containers, but it's really reassuring to know that you can also grow cucumbers in containers. Peppers work in containers, the right tomato works in a container, cucumbers great in containers. So if you're stuck for space, try container growing. So again, I plant everything with a little bit of Sure Start. And I'm going to grow these guys right up against the fence. And I'm going to vary it a little bit. I have to make sure the Suyo Longs go in. And Summer Dance. Oh yes, Summer Dance is a really excellent variety. Nice, long, gorgeous cucumbers. Easy to grow, great little climbers. So the soil's been enriched. Nice mix of good potting soil and soil booster. Little bit of Sure Start. I'm not going to mess too much with these because of course you can direct seed your cucumbers too, but we didn't. I have access to fabulous starts here, so we're starting from starts. Same thing, firm it around, water it in. Now I'm just going to water this with straight regular water. And cucumbers, you can plant them really closely together because this soil is deep, it's rich, they've got lots of room to climb. So I'm going to do about 6 inches apart, and I'm anticipating a whole bunch of wonderful cucumbers. So the one thing about cucumbers, if you picture what eating a cucumber is like, it is 99.9% water. So you really have to make sure you stay up on your watering. Tomatoes are a little bit better left to dry out a bit. There's nothing worse than a watery tomato. It's just like, what's the point? It's not that great at all. So there's a kind of an art to tomato watering. We'll do that in a whole other video. But cucumbers, they love their water. But you know what they don't like is overhead water because they can be susceptible to fungal problems. So this is definitely a place where drip irrigation is absolutely the way to go. And I'll get all my little emitters in place after we've planted all the cucumbers. Alrighty, so I planted my cucumbers towards the back so they have something to climb up, which means I have a whole, like, 1 foot by 4 foot area right here that I'm going to plant some bush beans. And the bean that I'm going to plant is flambeau, also known as a cranberry bean or an Italian bean called borlato. Now, people think we can't grow shell beans here in Zone 9B, and that is simply not true. Flambeau is a fabulous bean. You can pick them really fresh, use those beans immediately in soups, or you can let them dry on the plant and harvest them for storage later on. And it's a delicious bean and it's a beautiful bean. So I never miss an opportunity to decorate with beans, basically. So that's what's going up in front. Now this is a bush bean, does not need any climbing, anything. No climbing support whatsoever. It gets about 18 inches high, multi-branching, lots and lots of beans. Maybe 2 feet if it's super happy. And you just plant it the same way. Little bit of Sure Start in every hole and then water them in. We're going to plant some climbing beans in just a minute too. Actually, I got a little head start on that and did them already. And I'll show you what I did there. But here we go. Beans need about a foot apart because those little plants are going to get about 1 or 2 feet tall and wide. And this is pretty much French intensive gardening in a container. So good rich soil. They've got their 1 foot between them, firmed in really nicely. And these beans are off to an amazing start. All they need is a little bit of water. I made a little bit of a head start with the climbing beans. Now these are Blue Lake pole beans, pretty much a universal favorite with the best tasting green beans ever. Perfect pods, perfect color, perfect flavor. Everybody's favorite green bean. When I asked everybody here at work what was their favorite green bean to grow, this one came way up top. So that's what I'm doing here. And I did give them an arbor to climb. And because we're planting the beans pretty close together, they have a nice big arbor. Again, they're in a container. Note they're in a container. They're going to be thrilled to bits. Yeah, because they're an annual. They don't need a ton of root space. This container is probably 16 inches deep, slightly buried in the ground. These beans are going to be so happy once they get to climbing. Next, I'm planting some corn, and I want this whole area filled with corn. I'm starting with Silver Queen because that is one of the most delicious corns you can ever harvest from your garden, eat within 5 minutes. You will never look at corn the same way again. It's a beautiful sulfury white, sweet, sweet corn that is so good. So I'm planting lots of Silver Queen, and in a different area, I'm going to be planting ultraviolet because I've never grown it before. I saw pictures of it. It looks amazing. Apparently it tastes amazing. And I'm looking for a rival to Silver Queen, something that tastes just as good as Silver Queen and is purple. That would be incredible, wouldn't it? So let me tell you how to plant corn. First off, this soil again has been prepped really beautifully. It had fava beans growing in it all winter and spring. We dug them in. It's rich, it's great. Added some soil booster. I'm going to be adding some Sure Start to every single hole. Now corn is a grass, high nitrogen feeder, and I definitely will be adding some fish emulsion to that. I'll be watering everybody in with some fish emulsion also. But let me tell you about corn. It's wind pollinated. So if you plant corn in a line, you're going to miss out on that wind pollination, and you may not get those ears of corn, which is what you're growing corn for, let's face it. So the best way to plant corn is in a block, 4 feet by 4 feet, 6 feet by 6 feet, 8 by 8. A block of corn is amazing. Now in a different spot of this particular garden, I will be planting them a little bit more in a line, but I'm going to do my best to make it blocky because corn is also a fabulous plant to cover up unsightly views. I'll show you where that's going to be happening. But right now, Silver Queen, it is going in a block because I really want to get lots and lots of ears of corn. Now corn is a grass, doesn't mind growing closely together. So I plant it 4 to 6 inches apart. The soil in part of this yard is really, really dry. So I'm going to get some water in the hole before I even stick the corn in there. Add that little bit of Sure Start. You may have your favorite organic fertilizer to plant your plants with. Go for it. I just happen to love this stuff. And I do plant everything from starts. In my own garden, I've got mice like you wouldn't believe. They and the pigeons and the doves will eat the corn seeds so fast. And same here. We planted a bunch of sunflowers recently. Next day I come out, there's a pair of pigeons out there going through the sunflower seeds one by one. It was frustrating, to say the least. Same happens with corn, so I do use starts. But same rules apply if you're planting corn from seed. 4 to 6 inches apart. You do want them close because you want that wind pollination to happen. If they're too far apart, the wind blowing the pollen from one plant to another doesn't happen. I kind of use my shovel to measure things out. Wet it down, little sure start, pop in a corn. I tell you, today is a warm day, but it's immensely satisfying to be planting up a summer garden today. It really, really is. Something about planting the plants that you're going to be harvesting delicious veggies from in a few short months, it is so rewarding. It just feels good to be doing this today, no matter how hot it is. And I start planning ahead already to harvesting this delicious corn and those cucumbers I just planted, and the tomatoes and the peppers. It is so much fun. In your garden, it's always a great idea too to add a few edible flowers for a couple of reasons. Pollinators love to visit. The more pollinators you come into your garden, the more pollination that you get with those veggies that need insect pollination. Now, we already talked about corn needing wind pollination. So bringing extra pollinators into your corn patch doesn't really help, but they're cute to look at. And they're definitely helping your squash and your tomatoes and your peppers and everything else that needs insect pollination. Also, if you have an orchard, of course plant pollinator favorites like alyssum and dianthus and cornflowers and sunflowers and all those fabulous things that the pollinators are going to flock to. And you will get so much fruit. Okay, so I've got a nice little block going here. I think a couple more would be absolutely ideal, but this is about all I have time for right this second. But I just want to tell you, corn is a grass, loves nitrogen, so I'm going to finish off watering it in with another bit of fish emulsion. If you remember, I dug the hole, put fish emulsion in there to start with, well diluted, of course. A little bit of Sure Start to start it with, and I'm watering it in again with more watery fish emulsion. Follow the instructions on the fish emulsion you purchase. Whatever it tells you vegetables like, do that. Your corn absolutely loves it. And there we go, everybody. Obviously, that is not all the summer veggies that I'm going to plant here in the garden at Cottage Gardens of Petaluma. I'll be filling in as the days go by. We don't have summer squash in yet, or winter squash, or the pumpkins. And I have this cool idea of doing a whole Three Sisters garden in this gigantic container that I've got. So you need to come back and check on that in a week or so. Meanwhile, I just want to say thank you so much for following me, so much for watching my videos. I hope you've been inspired to get out there. Don't think you're too late. Get outside, plant up your summer garden if you haven't already done it. Add to your summer garden if you've still got space. We live in a fabulous climate, and there is nothing like homegrown food. You're absolutely going to love it. Check in with me anytime at Facebook, Instagram. Drop me a comment. What's your favorite tomato variety to grow? I'm always looking for new varieties. I got my favorites. You know that already. We grow over 200 varieties here at Cottage, but still always on the look for another one. So, in the meantime, everybody, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful week in your garden, and I will see you next time. Happy gardening!